are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for
keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Tuesday, September 24th. We have a lot to cover on the show today. Before I get into that, just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the following icon in the chat, the $ icon. This will help create a super chat for you that I will acknowledge during the live broadcast. Any thoughts or comments you may have. It just makes the show more lively, more entertaining between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. We appreciate your guys' viewership each and every day, so any contribution you can make to the show means the world to us as we put out content for you guys each and every day. And also, the other way to help out the show is by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker, gsmcpodcast.net. So let's get into what we are going to discuss for today. So we're going to start off the show. We're going to talk about the Washington Commanders and their 38-33 victory over the Cincinnati Bengals. Then we'll talk about the other Monday night game as well. That wasn't really much of a game. The Bills and the Jaguars. The Bills all over the Jaguars, 47-10. So we'll get into that as well. We'll also get into some of the other games from Week 3. We'll talk about the Eagles and their win over the Saints. Then we'll talk about the Panthers picking up their first win of the season against the Raiders in Vegas. And then we'll talk about the Steelers improving to 3-0 on the year, defeating the Chargers 20-10. So let's get into the first topic, which is talking about the Washington Commanders and their win over the Bengals. So I predicted it, first of all, that I was going to lose both games last night in the spread pool because I was already at 7, and I already lost the Sunday night game. So I said, you know what, probably going to end up losing these games too because I'm already at 7, and that's what happened. I ended up losing both games, which I'm not surprised about. One of them I should have saw coming, but I didn't take the Bills. I gave the Jags another chance, and I shouldn't have done that because we'll get into that. But let's talk about the better of the two games. So the Bengals coming into the game were 0-2. The offense looked a little bit better against the Chiefs last week. And you thought against the Commanders, a team that, they picked up their first win last week against the Giants. They didn't punt at all. They scored a bunch of field goals, but they didn't punt at all. And, doesn't look like they're going to be a bad team. Well, as bad as many people would think, including me. But I thought the Bengals, this was a game that they could win. The defense of the Commanders was not very good, especially in the secondary, and that you saw that on the very first drive of the game. Joe Burrow connected with Jamar Chase, who had a big day for 41 yards for a touchdown, and the Bengals were up 7-0 just like that. And I thought, all right, well, the Bengals got this. I mean, they're gonna be all over this defense tonight. But didn't really factor in that the Commanders would be all over the Bengals defense last night because now this is interesting. So the Commanders didn't punt at all last week, and they just kicked field goals. They didn't punt at all again in this game. So let's get into the game summary. So like I said, Bengals, they started off the game with a touchdown, Burrow to Chase. That was great. But then the Commanders answered, and that's when I said, okay, well, if this is going to be a game, the Bengals defense can't stop anything. Because, again, there are a lot of times where you watch the first two possessions of a game, and you're like, this is how the game's going to go. And right after the Commanders scored, I said, that's not good. This game is going to be a shootout. And it was. The Commanders went 10 plays, 70 yards, 6 minutes of time of possession down the field, and Brian Robinson Jr. from 1 yard out scored a touchdown to make it 7-7. Then the Bengals, they went down the field, and Evan McPherson missed a field goal. This was a 48-yarder. The Commanders, on their second drive, they went down the field in a little over 3 minutes to put themselves up 14-7. Austin Eckler from 24 yards out. He left this game early. I think he suffered a concussion in this game. So hope everything's all right there. But, yeah, he looked good on that touchdown run. And, once he comes back, the Commanders, they got a nice little combination with him and Brian Robinson Jr. At least, last night it was effective. So then the Bengals answered with another field goal. Evan McPherson from 28 yards out to make it 14-10. Then the Commanders again scored a touchdown. Jayden Daniels a rushing touchdown from 4 yards out. The Bengals did answer with another field goal drive to make it 21-13. Evan McPherson from 31 yards out. So yeah, there were no punts in the first half. And that continued into there were no punts at all. There were no punts at all in this game. So we go into the third quarter. Commanders put up another touchdown drive. Jayden Daniels connected with Scott for 1 yard. That was one of the offensive linemen that caught that. So that made it 28-13. And then the Bengals answered with another touchdown drive. Joe Burrow connected with JioSaavn from 2 yards out. He's been good for them. He's taking over that Tyler Boyd role. So that made it 28-20. Commanders then answered with another field goal drive. Austin Seibert's been money for them since they picked him up. Kicked a 42-yard field goal, so that made it 31-20. Then the Bengals answered with another touchdown. Burrow to Chase for 31 yards. They failed on the 2-point try. There was some controversy on that call. No call, because it looked like that Higgins was interfered with on the 2-point try, but they didn't call it. And then, the Bengals had to get a stop here to get the ball back and potentially go ahead. And they weren't able to do that. So this was on 3rd and 7 from the Bengals 27, and it was a cover 0, and Jayden Daniels connected with Terry McLaurin for a 27-yard touchdown, and that put the game out of reach at that point. The Bengals did score another touchdown. That was a Zach Moss touchdown from 1 yard out to make it 38-33. But, the Bengals went for an onside kick, didn't get it, and the Commanders get the win. That was a huge win for them. Jayden Daniels played very well in this game, 21-23, 254 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Also had a rushing touchdown in this game, like I mentioned. So 3 total touchdowns on the day, and I wanted to put up his graphic. So yeah, these are his full stats. So 3 total touchdowns in the game. The Commanders as a team ran the ball for 108 yards. Jayden Daniels had 39, Eckler had 35, Brian Robinson Jr. had 33. They all had touchdowns. Terry McLaurin had 4 receptions for 100 yards and a touchdown. He's got a quarterback, finally. Which, he's going to really benefit from that, and you saw that last night, and that's going to continue throughout the season. Luke McCaffrey, 3 for 44. Zach Ertz had 5 for 38. Noah Brown, 3 for 29. De'Ami Brown had 2 for 16. The Commanders had a couple of sacks in the game. There were no turnovers in the game, actually. No turnovers. Bengals defense had a couple of sacks in this game. But the defense was not great at all. And then as for the Bengals offense, Burrow was solid, 29-38, 324 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, 62 yards on the ground by Chase Brown, Zach Moss 58 yards, and a touchdown. Jamar Chase, he broke out, 6 receptions for 118 yards and 2 touchdowns. Andre Yoshivas, 5 for 52 and a touchdown. Mike Gesicki, 4 for 47. Zach Moss, 5 for 39. T. Higgins, 3 for 39 in his first game back. Evan McPherson went 2 for 3 on field goals. But yeah, my takeaways from this game, Jayden Daniels looks legit. Hit Terry McLaurin on a couple of deep throws, not just a touchdown, but another one that set up another scoring drive for them. He looks really good. You could also say the Bengals defense is bad, but I think it was a little bit of both. I think this Commanders offense is starting to, click, and I just think the Bengals defense is not good. I think it's a little bit of both. But The Commanders look better than I thought they were going to be. I mean, the defense is still not good. But this offense, as long as this offense puts up points, I mean, they're going to be in any game against any opponent they go up against. And that happened here. They didn't punt. They haven't punted since week 1. So, but also, I think the bigger concern here is on the Bengals side. The defense was not good at all yesterday. They were getting burnt. And they had no answers. They had no answers for this Commanders offense. And, credit to Cliff Kingsbury because he's the play caller. This Commanders offense, they got some playmakers, and we knew this. It's just for me, the defense was so bad last year that I just thought that was really going to impact this team, and it still does, and it's still going to. But this offense is better than I think people would have originally thought. So I give them a lot of credit. And for the Bengals, I mean, you're 0-3 now. And I think it's time. I know it's, we're only going into week 4, but you're 0-3. I think that panic button might be getting pressed because that defense, I don't know. They were missing some guys last night in the running game. They were missing Sheldon Rankins and B.J. Hill. Also, I don't think Von Bell played, but I didn't get a chance to do that, but I wanted to go back and look at the defense that got the Bengals to the Super Bowl because they definitely, they lost Jesse Bates. That's one guy I could think of. He was definitely missed last night. A couple of other guys in the secondary. I know Eli Apple was in that secondary when they went, but he's not that good. But I know Jesse Bates, they definitely miss him on the back end there. So, yeah, it's not looking good right now for the Bengals. They are definitely better than an 0-3 team. And I feel like, they're not going to go winless. They're going to get back on the right track at some point. But, it doesn't help where their offense played really well last night. And your defense was just the complete opposite. Couldn't stop anything. How are you going to beat anyone if you can't stop anything? And Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase got on the right page, and you thought, all right, this is where the Bengals get it going, and it didn't happen. So, look, I go back to the 2015 Chiefs. They were 1-5, and they made the playoffs. The Bengals could do the same thing. But there's some things that they got to clean up. But props to the Commanders, props to Jayden Daniels. He played very well last night. And they take on the Cardinals. And, the Cardinals, they've been good so far this year. I know they got shut down by, the Lions and their defense. James Conner did nothing in the running game. But you know what? That's going to happen. That could be a shootout. I might want to take the over in that game. We'll see if the Commanders punt next week because they haven't punted in 2 weeks. But congrats to them. This is a step in the right direction. This is a massive win on the road for them. But let me know what you guys think about this game for both the Commanders and the Bengals. Definitely some big concerns for the Bengals going forward. So we're going to take our first break of the show. When we come back, we will discuss the Bills and their win over the Jaguars, 47-10. Yeah, you read that right. So we will get into that when we come back from our first break. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. Oh.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the second part of the show, we are now going to talk about another team in the Buffalo Bills who they didn't punt until the fourth quarter, but that was basically when the game was out of reach. So, yeah, two teams, well, really three teams that just, there was only one punt between the three. And we'll get into that right now. So, last night, I mean, going into this game, didn't feel great about taking the Jags. For some reason, I like to take AFC South teams against the Bills on Monday night because the Titans, they played them a couple years ago, and they got absolutely destroyed on Monday night. But for some reason, I didn't learn my lesson. And I said, you know what, the Jags, they're 0-2 right now. You know, they really need to come out and put up a good fight because, you know, you don't want to go 0-3 and, you know, throw that out the window because that didn't happen. From start to finish, the Bills just absolutely dominated this game. Did not surprise me at all. But, you know, and you could say, well, the Bills are just that good, and the Jaguars just, you know, they're not a team that's ready to compete with some of these better teams in the AFC, which is definitely true. I mean, even look at last week. They went up against the Browns, a team that just, you know, they have their issues as well, at quarterback particularly. The final score of that game was 18-13. Now they go up against the Bills. Josh Allen is rolling, and they just continue to roll all over the Jaguars. It was never a game, like I said, from start to finish. This game just got out of hand very quickly. So let's go through it. So, yeah, the Bills, they went 10 plays, 70 yards down the field, 5.5 minutes of time of possession. And James Cook from 6 yards out scored a touchdown. Tyler Bass missed the extra point. Didn't matter. The Jaguars punted. They went 3 and out very quickly. Drive didn't even last a minute. Bills, again, go down the field. Josh Allen connected with Dalton Kincaid to make it 13-0. Jaguars did kick a field goal. They put together a nice drive, you know, a little, almost 8 minutes of time of possession. And Little from 41 yards out kicked the field goal to make it 13-3. Bills turned that into a touchdown to make it 20-3. Josh Allen connected with Keon Coleman for a touchdown to make it 20-3. An interception by Trevor Lawrence. It was an overthrow off the fingertips of Brian Thomas Jr., and it was picked off by Damar Hamlin. The Bills turned that into a touchdown. Josh Allen connected with Khalil Shakir to make it 27-3. And then they got another touchdown to make it 34-3 at the half. Josh Allen connected with Ty Johnson for a 16-yard touchdown. And, I said the Bills would have 30 points. They had 34 points in the first half. The Jaguars did open up the second half with a touchdown drive to make it 34-10. Trevor Lawrence connected with Brenton Strange from 6 yards out. The Bills, on their first drive of the second half, got some points with a field goal. Tyler Bass from 27 yards out to make it 37-10. Jags turned it over on downs. The Bills punted for the first time in the fourth quarter, but we're not really going to count that. Jags turned it over on downs. Another field goal drive for the Bills. Tyler Bass from 43 yards out. The Jags then fumbled. Mac Jones actually came into the game, and he was sacked and lost the ball. And the Bills turned that into a touchdown as well. Ray Davis, he scored. And that was the final score. Trevor Lawrence went 21-38 for 178 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Mac Jones went 5 for 8 for 22 yards. Travis Etienne only 68 yards on the ground. Christian Kirk was their leading receiver, so they got him more involved, at least if you want to take a positive from this game. I guess they got Christian Kirk more involved. He was targeted 10 times. Then Brian Thomas Jr. had 5 receptions for 48 yards. Gabe Davis, 2 for 18. Parker Washington, 2 for 18. Brenton Strange had 2 for 12 and a touchdown. No sacks in this game for that Jaguars defense. And as for the Bills, I mean, Josh Allen, Right now, he's got 7 touchdowns and no interceptions on the season. Right now, he's the front runner for MVP. He went 23 of 30, 263 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. James Cook had 11 carries for 39 yards and a touchdown. Josh Allen ran the ball for 44 yards as well. Ray Davis had 22 yards on the ground and a touchdown. Their leading receiver was Khalil Shakir, who's been a nice player for them so far this year. Once again, 6 receptions for 72 yards and a touchdown. Dalton Kincaid had a touchdown. Ty Johnson had a touchdown. Keon Coleman, his only reception was for a touchdown. The Bills' defense had 5 sacks in this game. Yeah, it wasn't much of a game. It was really the polar opposite of the Bengals Commanders game. And again, it's one of those things where, I mean, I don't think the Bills, they're not going to put up 47. They're not going to put up 47 points a game. But the Bills are very good. The Bills are one of the best teams in the NFL right now. There's no question about that. They're 3-0 on the season. Next week they got a game against the Ravens, which is going to be very tough. That's in Baltimore on Sunday Night Football. But they are one of the best teams in the NFL. They're playing like it. And Josh Allen is playing like it too. He's playing like one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. And like I said, front runner for MVP at this very moment, even though it's only, we're only going into week 4. But still, 7 touchdowns to no picks. He has fumbled, right? I think he fumbled in the week 1 game. But either way, he's been playing very well. And then as for the Jaguars, yeah, this season is going to unravel. This is going to be a long season. I mean, there's a possibility that maybe they could turn it around and do like a reverse of last year, where they started off good, but then they finished, they ended up collapsing. Maybe it's the opposite this year, but there's really no indication of that happening. I mean, they should have won in week 1. You were up by multiple scores against the Dolphins. You had that game, and they blew it. Last week, sloppy game against the Browns, and then this week, I mean, it just, that was tough to watch. That really was. And Trevor Lawrence, again, did not play well. And, you could say it's more than just him. It's the play calling and things like that, but, he's part of the problem too. That interception, that's on him. You overthrew your receiver and it gets picked off. So they got a lot of issues, and it doesn't get any easier for them because then they take on the Texans, who just got embarrassed by the Vikings. So, the Texans are going to want to, come out and play much better than they did this past week. And the Jaguars, I mean, there's really no indication of them getting out of this. There really isn't. So, you know what? I tried to get cute last night and said, you know what? I know it's against the Bills, but maybe they play a competitive game here. They did not. And I'm kind of just done giving them chances, at least in the spread pool. So next week, I don't care what the line is, I'm already taking the Texans. And you know what's going to happen? The Jaguars are going to keep it close, and maybe they'll win somehow. But there's really no indication of them getting out of this. I mean, even the defense, you looked at their defensive line going into the year. I mean, they added Eric Armstead to it. You paid Josh Allen, the other Josh Allen, even though he doesn't like to be called that, and Trayvon Walker. Where's the pressure? Where's that defensive line? Non-existent. No sacks. What's going on? And the penalties also. The penalties were bad too. Right now, they're an undisciplined football team, and they just can't get out of their own way right now. And we're on our way to seeing massive changes if this season continues in this downward spiral. Doug Peterson, Trent Baalke, I mean, those guys are probably gone. And they just paid Trevor Lawrence all that money. He is not playing like that quarterback at all. And to be honest, I said, you know what, Trevor Lawrence does deserve to get paid. I said that before the season. But at the price that they paid him, he does not deserve it. I'm sorry. Because he just has not played like a $55 million quarterback. He hasn't. And that continues. So, look, it's still a long season. But for me, this season I think is pretty much over for the Jags. Until they can start figuring things out on offense and maybe the defense could wake up a little bit and get some pressure with the guys that they have on the line, this season is quickly on its way to being over. Because right now you're 0-3. And you're playing in the superior conference of the two, between the NFC and the AFC. I had the Jaguars missing the playoffs anyways. And you know what? I was going back and forth on whether to give them 8 or 9 wins. And I gave them the benefit of the doubt, and I gave them 9. Who knows if they even get to 6 the way they're playing. So, yeah, it was definitely a little bit of both. Like, the Bills, I think, are very good. The Jaguars right now are just a team that, they have one of the worst records in football right now at 0-3. It's them, the Bengals, and the Titans, another team in their division. Maybe they could beat the Titans. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see when that game comes around between those two teams. Well, the Bengals, they're 0-3, but they don't deserve to be 0-3. Like, Joe Burrow is starting to play better. But they're 0-3. And you are what your record says you are. So, yeah, the Jags, they got a lot of problems right now. The Bills, I mean, they are riding high. They are playing really well. And with the Dolphins and their issues and the Patriots, it's really going to be between the Bills and the Jets for the division right now. Which I had the Bills finishing in second. I had the Jets finishing in first. So it's going to be very competitive. And they play each other week 6. The Bills, they got some tough games coming up, like I said. They got the Ravens coming up. They got the Jets in week 6. And then who do they play in between that? Oh, they play the Texans in between that. Wow. In Houston. So those are 3 tough games. I think there's definitely a loss in between that. But it's hard to say because Josh Allen is rolling right now. And, yeah, no, they look really good. They look really good. They could beat you in so many different ways. I mean, now you got James Cook, who's running the football well. I mean, he's done that since he's, been in the league. And Josh Allen looks like an MVP candidate right now. He looks like the front runner. And the defense is doing its job, and that was something a lot of people talked about. They lost a lot of pieces. Matt Milano gets hurt before the year starts. But, yeah, it's the Bills look really good right now. They're one of the top teams in the NFL. So, yeah, 47-10. Jags. Next game is against the Texans. So, let's see if they could maybe bounce back there. But I'm not counting on it the way they're playing. So, with that, before we go to break, I just want to remind you guys once again to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the $ icon in the chat. This will help create a super chat for any thought or comment that you may have throughout the live broadcast. I will acknowledge that thought or comment. Makes the show more lively, more entertaining between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. We appreciate your guys' viewership each and every day, so any contribution you can make to the show means the world to us as we give you guys content each and every day. And also the other way to help out the show is by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker, GSMCpodcast.net. So, when we come back from our second break, we'll get into talking about the Eagles-Saints game and the Eagles picking up a huge win over the Saints in New Orleans. We'll get into that when we return from our next break. So, with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we are now going to get into talking about the Saints-Eagles game on Sunday. The Eagles picking up a 15-12 victory. And, yeah, I was surprised. What I was really surprised about was how well the Eagles' defense played. Because that was my biggest concern going into the game, and also the fact that the Eagles were going to be without A.J. Brown. I just thought the writing was on the wall for the Saints to win this game. However, what do I know? Because I also had one of my coworkers tell me that they felt like the Eagles were going to win, and that's what ended up happening here. You know, the Eagles coming off of that tough loss against the Falcons where they should have won that game, going up against a team that was scoring over 40 points in their first two contests, and now they're at home. I thought this was going to be a long day for the Eagles, and it was not. Well, shouldn't say that, because it was a long day, and they actually didn't score any of their points until the fourth quarter. And if you look at the total yards by both teams, the Eagles put up 460 yards of total offense to the Saints' 219. And the Eagles had no points because they were going for it on fourth down, and the Saints kept stuffing them. Jalen Hurts threw a bad red zone interception. That's still been a problem this year, is him turning the football over. So really, the Eagles should have blew the Saints out in this game, but they didn't. So let's go through the drive summary here, or the game summary. So the Saints, they open up the game, 15 plays, 54 yards, 8 minutes of time of possession. And Groupie gets them started with a 34-yard field goal to make it 3-0. The Eagles, they punted on their first possession. The Saints punted. And then the Eagles put together a nice drive. Hurts hits Devontae Smith for 21 yards, hits Dallas Goedert for 43 yards. Dallas Goedert had a big game as well. But they get down to 3rd and 8 at the Saints 11. And Hurts trying to connect with Devontae Smith. It gets intercepted by Tyrann Mathieu. So there goes that. Then the Saints, they punt on their next drive. The Eagles, they fumble. Hurts gets sacked, loses the ball. Saints recover. So, again, turnovers continue to be an issue for Jalen Hurts. Then the Saints punt again. Eagles go 15 plays, 78 yards. They get all the way down to 4th and 1 at the Saints 15. They try a run with Saquon Barkley. He gets stuffed. And they turned it over on downs. And that was the score at the half, was 3-0. Then the Eagles again turn it over on downs. They go 10 plays, 37 yards. They're at the Saints' 34-yard line, and on 4th and 3, Hurts gets sacked for a 6-yard loss. Saints punt again, and then the Eagles punted, but their punt gets blocked. And the Saints turn it over on downs. They go for it on 4th and 1, and Kamara, he gets stuffed. And the game is still 3-0. Then we finally get some scoring in the fourth quarter. Saquon Barkley, 65-yard run from the Eagles' 35-yard line. So that changed the whole complexion of this game to make it 7-3. Saints answered with the field goal to make it 7-6. Groupie hits a 38-yard field goal. Jake Elliott actually missed the field goal. It was a 60-yarder. And then the Saints, they score their first touchdown of the game. Carr connected with Chris Olave for a 29-yard play. And then he connected with Olave again for a 13-yard touchdown. They did not get the 2-point conversion, so that made it 12-7. And then, you got the Eagles at 3rd and 16, right? So, it looks like the Saints are going to be able to, come away with the win here. But nobody was covering Dallas Goedert. Runs a crosser over the middle. Nobody's on the other side of the field. And Goddard, gets them all the way down to the Saints 4. 61-yard reception by Dallas Goedert. And then Barkley takes it from 4 yards out. And they do get the 2-point conversion to make it 15-12. And then the Saints, they get the ball back, and Derek Carr throws a pick, trying to connect with Rashid Shaheed, but it was not a good pass, and it got intercepted by Reed Blankenship. And the Eagles get the win. But like I said, this game could have very easily been a blowout if you look at the total yards. I mean, the Eagles had, like I said, 460 yards of total offense to the Saints 219. They shut this offense down. Derek Carr went 14 of 25 for 142 yards, a touchdown and a pick. Alvin Kamara 26 carries for 87 yards. Chris Olave had 6 receptions for 86 yards and a touchdown. Rashid Shaheed was targeted 5 times, no catches. No catches. He did have the opportunity to catch a touchdown from Derek Carr, but he wasn't able to haul it in. So yeah, but he's been good these first 2 weeks, but was it really a no-show against the Eagles here? Saints defense had 4 sacks in this game, and then as for the Eagles, I mean, Jalen Hurts, the turnovers continue to be a problem, but he went 29 of 38, 311 yards, no touchdowns and a pick, also had a fumble. Saquon Barkley continues to play really well for this team, 17 carries for 147 yards and 2 touchdowns. Dallas Goedert was their leading receiver, 10 receptions for 170 yards. Devontae Smith, 7 receptions for 79 yards. Took a vicious hit late in the game, so we'll have to see, what his status is moving forward. Also, Lane Johnson got banged up in this game too. He had to leave the game, I believe. So that's 2 more key pieces on this Eagles offense that are down, and they were already missing A.J. Brown. So other guys are going to have to step up. And then as for the Eagles defense, they only got 1 sack, but they really shut this offense down for the Saints. And that was something that I just did not expect going into this game. I mean, I knew at some point the Saints were going to, hit a wall, and I didn't expect it to be this game. Especially with how the Eagles defense has looked the first 2 games. And again, they still got their issues. I mean, they still need to get a pass rush. I mean, Bryce Huff, who they brought in over from the Jets, has not played well. He hasn't really been able to get pressure on the quarterback. So, yeah, the defense still has some issues. But the fact that they were able to hold the Saints down in that environment and, the way the Saints offense has been playing, that was very impressive. So props to them. And also, I give props to the Eagles offense as well. I mean, Jalen Hurts still turning the ball over, but, without A.J. Brown, without Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert stepped up. And also Saquon Barkley makes a huge difference, and made people, at least for the moment, forget about the drop that he had last week against the Falcons. He looks really good with the Eagles. I mean, there's really no surprise there. I think we all knew that he was going to go in and he was going to perform. And you just see now how he looks behind a better offensive line. He's unbelievable. So, but that was a big win for the Eagles. I didn't expect them to win, especially how the defense looked and missing A.J. Brown. They had the odds stacked against them, but they were able to go in there and get the win. And now the Saints are back to reality. Now, are the Saints going to just go in this tailspin? I don't think so. I think you still got good enough players. The defense, it's not like the defense didn't, play well at times. They got stops on 4th down when they needed to. They got turnovers in this game. So, but I mean, yeah, the Eagles almost had 500 yards of offense on them, but they made key stops when they had to. So, I'm not ready to say that the Saints are just, all right, back to reality with them. But they're not as good as those first 2 weeks showed us. You look at who they beat, the Panthers, and you look at how bad the Cowboys defense has been playing. There were reasons for that, for the Saints putting up 40 points. But I still think this team is going to hang around, be a team that competes in the NFC South. And they got a big game coming up against the Falcons in Atlanta next week. So, that's a huge divisional matchup early on. The both teams, the Falcons are 1-2 after dropping that close game to the Chiefs. And, we'll see what happens there. And then as for the Eagles, they take on the Bucs in Tampa. So another NFC South opponent. And, the Bucs, I mean, they laid an egg against the Broncos on Sunday. So, we'll see if they can bounce back. But I was very impressed by the Eagles in this game. See, this is the team. Now, once you get A.J. Brown, and you hope Devontae Smith is not out long term, But, once you get this offense healthy, and if this defense can play like that, this is why I said the Eagles are going to return to how they were in 2022. Because you got so much talent on this offense. You add Saquon Barkley, and, the defense should be better. And they stepped up when they had to. So I give them a lot of credit there. But they got to continue that. They're playing against the Bucs. I think the Bucs are definitely going to play better than they did this past week against the Broncos. So, the Eagles, and they lost to the Buccaneers in the playoffs. Some of the worst, tackling that I've ever seen. Let's see if they can avenge that playoff loss. And you know what? The way things look right now, you would lean towards that being the case. But we'll see. We'll see. So, let me know what you guys think, though, about this game. What were some of your takeaways from it? I mean, the fact that the Eagles had almost 500 yards of total offense in this game, and, they didn't get any of their points until the fourth quarter, that's why football is just such a wacky sport. And that's the NFL for you. This was another wacky week. But, yeah, that was a big win. That was a big win. And, the Saints, they had their opportunities, too, to put up points, and they couldn't cash in. So, yeah, we'll see what happens next week when these two teams go up against the Saints against the Falcons, the Eagles against the Buccaneers. So, we're going to take our next break, and then when we come back, we'll talk about the Panthers picking up their first win of the season. We'll talk about another NFC South team. We'll get into the specifics of that game, as well as talking about the Raiders and a disappointing loss there. Andy Dalton making his return, becoming the starting for the Panthers in this game. Started in a game last year for them, but after this performance, he looks like he's going to be the starting quarterback moving forward. And yeah, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about Bryce Young, what this means for him, all that good stuff when we come back from our next break here. So, with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast, and for the fourth part of the show, we are now going to get into talking about the Panthers picking up their first win of the season against the Raiders, defeating the Raiders 36-22 in the Raiders' home opener. So let's get into that. So, obviously, they made that change at quarterback. Referenced it before we went to break. They made that change at quarterback. They went from Bryce Young to Andy Dalton, and I did expect to see a different Panthers offense. I thought they would be able to, I thought they were going to put up points, but I still thought this was going to be a competitive game, a tough game, because the Raiders, at home, I thought, that pass rush with Max Crosby was going to be a problem for him, but it really wasn't. It really was not. The Panthers looked like a completely different team. Andy Dalton, from start to finish, played very well. And here are his stats from the game. 319 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions on the day. The Panthers ran the football well in this game. Chuba Hubbard had 21 carries for 114 yards. Deontay Johnson had a breakout game for them. 8 receptions for 122 yards and a touchdown. Chuba Hubbard also had a receiving touchdown in this game. Xavier Legette, 2 receptions for 42 yards. Adam Thielen, 3 for 40 and a touchdown. Did leave the game early with an injury. So hopefully, that's not a long-term injury. Because Thielen, last year had a good year for the Panthers. And he's, obviously getting older, but, is still a productive receiver. And, yeah, they just looked like a completely different team. 3 sacks of Gardner Minshew in this game by the defense. It was just a completely different Panthers team. And then as for the Raiders, Gardner Minshew did not play well. 18 of 28, 214 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Aiden O'Connell was put in this game. He went 9 of 12 for 82 yards and a touchdown. Raiders are still not running the ball great. Trey Tucker was their leading receiver, 7 receptions for 96 yards and a touchdown. Jacoby Myers, 7 for 62 and a touchdown. Devontae Adams, 4 for 40. Brock Bowers, 3 for 41. 2 sacks in the game by the Raiders. And, yeah, not a good performance by them. And Antonio Pierce at the end of the game said, guys are making business decisions, and he said that they're going to be making business decisions. So we'll see what that means. Definitely controversy at the quarterback position. We could very well see Aiden O'Connell starting in Week 4 for them because Gardner Minshew did not play well. And this is after, going into Baltimore and beating the Ravens, being down 10. But that's the NFL for you. It's week to week. So actually this pick ended up being good for me. This ended up working out. I took the Panthers with the points, and that ended up paying off. So, yeah, I mean, got to give Andy Dalton credit, and look, I mean, is he, going to be the answer long-term for the Panthers? No, but he's at least the answer for right now. And, many people are talking about it. Look how good they looked when he played on Sunday. Looked like a completely different team. And, many people talking about it's an indictment on Bryce Young, why this offense was not getting it done. Now, I do think that you have to put blame on Bryce Young for why this offense has not been great these last couple of years. But Bryce Young maybe just was not ready. He got thrown right in. Situation was not great in his rookie year. They got rid of DJ Moore. No Christian McCaffrey. Adam Thielen was your top receiver, and it's an older Adam Thielen. This year they at least attempted to try to better this offense around him, improving the offensive line. They got Deontay Johnson. They drafted Xavier Legette. You got Jonathan Brooks coming back soon. So they at least attempted to try to improve this offense, but these first 2 weeks, Bryce Young was not great. He was not good at all. And the Panthers had to make a change. And it's interesting because Dave Canales said that Bryce Young was the guy moving forward, and then all of a sudden they benched him and they put in Andy Dalton. Many people are pointing to Dave Tepper as the reason for why that was the case. Because he doesn't want to see this season unravel. Wants the Panthers to have a season. And it's just kind of funny when you look at the quarterbacks of the AFC South. You have Derek Carr, Andy Dalton now, Baker Mayfield, and Kirk Cousins. It's an interesting division. And you know what? The Panthers can make some noise here with Andy Dalton in this division. I think, he showed it. He can still play. And you look at, the Panthers' weapons. Are they the best in the world? No. But, you got some weapons there. Chuba Hubbard, he's played well for them these last couple of years. Deontay Johnson, I still think is a decent receiver. We'll see what, Xavier Legette is throughout the season in his rookie year. And you hope Thielen's not out for an extended period of time, because if he's still playing, Thielen's going to do well. So, this Panthers team is going to be a problem. If Andy Dalton can continue to play like that. I don't think he's going to play like that every single week. I think there's going to be games where he doesn't do well. But, you give Andy Dalton weapons, you give him good protection, he's going to put up good stats for you, and that's what he did. As for the Raiders, that was a very disappointing performance. Andy Dalton just picked apart that defense, and Gardner Minshew did not play well. So, like I said, probably going to end up seeing Aiden O'Connell this week. I would imagine that he's going to be the starter after the performance that Minshew put on Sunday. So, yeah, but you got to give props to the Panthers. The season's back on. Well, again, I don't expect them to, be a playoff team. I mean, again, this NFC South, who knows what's going to happen. But, with Andy Dalton, this offense is in a better position than it was with Bryce Young. Now, what does that mean for Bryce Young going forward? Could they move off of him and maybe a team comes in and tries to fix him? I think that's probably what's going to end up happening. And I think that's what should happen. I think Bryce Young should request a trade and get out of there. Go somewhere where someone can fix you, because you see some of these other quarterbacks around the league. Look at Geno Smith in Seattle, Sam Darnold with the Vikings, Baker Mayfield in Tampa. I know Baker had a rough game on Sunday, but still, he's been playing well. These quarterbacks go to different places, and if you end up in the right spot, team can fix you. So, maybe Bryce Young could go. I mean, the Rams, I know, is a team that maybe could be that. Maybe the Jets with Aaron Rodgers. You sit behind Aaron Rodgers, although I think going to the Rams would be better because, look, as much as you'll be sitting behind Aaron Rodgers, you also got Robert Saleh and Nathaniel Hackett there. And I think for Bryce Young, he should end up in a situation where you could sit and you have a good head coach. That's an offensive-minded head coach, and I think going to the Rams, I think that would be that'd be a great fit for him. You sit behind Matthew Stafford, you got Sean McVay there, and I think that would be a good spot for him. The Jets with Aaron Rodgers, yes, it would be great to sit behind Aaron Rodgers, but the coaching staff is where I have a problem. So, and who knows how long Aaron Rodgers is going to be playing for? We got this year. I think he still wants to play. So he's going to play this year and next year. But beyond that, who knows? But, yeah, Bryce Young, I think he should be looking to get out of Carolina. And as for the Panthers, look, you got Andy Dalton. He's not going to be the long-term answer, so they're going to have to figure something out with the quarterback position. Because, again, Andy Dalton is not the long-term answer here. But let me know what you guys think about this game. What were your takeaways from it? Yeah, for the Raiders, that was rough. That was rough. So they got to get back on the right track, and we again could see a quarterback change. Also, what did Antonio Pierce mean by business decisions? We got to see if any more news comes out of Vegas there. Yeah, Panthers pick up the win. They look like a different team. Although And again, we don't want to get ahead of ourselves with a lot of these games and some of these teams' records, because it's not going to be the same when we get to the end of the year. But, yeah, let's see. Anthony Manzano in the chat said, in your honest opinion, do you think the Dolphins are going to have to trade for a veteran backup or maybe try to get Matthew Stafford? I don't think so with Stafford. The Rams just came off of a big win against the Niners. And I think, look, Cooper Kupp's not going on IR. So hopefully you get him back, you get this offensive line healthy, and suddenly the Rams, if they can continue to tread water, then you get Puka Nacua back, they're still going to be in the thick of things. I think that win against the 49ers really showed you something. Dolphins are another team, though. They could be a destination for Bryce Young if the Panthers would trade him there. But it is interesting. They could go after another quarterback. They did sign Tyler Huntley, so if I'm the Dolphins and you got him on the roster, I'm starting him over Tim Boyle. And now Skylar Thompson got hurt. I'm starting Tyler Huntley next week. I know Tyler Huntley's not, spectacular, but he's definitely the best option that they have right now as opposed to Tim Boyle. So maybe they go after another quarterback. You still got Ryan Tannehill out there. I'm surprised he hasn't been signed by somebody. I feel like he could at least be a backup, but that's just me. So we're going to take our final break of the show. When we come back, we will talk about the Steelers picking up a win against the Chargers. However, the Chargers lost. It was a lot more than just that because Justin Herbert got hurt in the game, and he had to leave the game early. So we'll get into all that when we return from our final break. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final part of the show, we are now going to get into talking about the Steelers and them defeating the Chargers 20-10, low-scoring game. But we'll also talk about Justin Herbert getting injured in this game as well. So, yeah, the Steelers, 3-0. I mean, they've gotten off to a good start. Now, has it looked pretty? No, but they're 3-0. They're playing very good defense. Justin Fields is playing good football. He's not, he did turn the ball over in this game. It was a interception that just got, it was like hot potato. It was a pile of players trying to pick it off. The Chargers did eventually pick it off, but for the most part, he's keeping the ball out of harm's way, and the Steelers play good defense. They have one of, if not the best defense in football. And they win their home opener 20-10, although it didn't get off to a great start because the Chargers, I think it was on their first drive or one of their first drives, they went down the field and there was a blown coverage. Quinn Johnson scored a touchdown. He's looked good early on in this season for the Chargers, and that's big. But yeah, the Chargers, on their third drive of the game, they went 5 plays, 59 yards, and yeah, Herbert connected with Quinn Johnson for a 27-yard touchdown. I did want to acknowledge Anthony Manzano's comment. He also said, honestly, I'm trying to stay away from another small quarterback with injury issues after what I'm dealing with Tua. Well, Bryce Young's not injured. Bryce Young just got benched. So, but I get when you're talking about the size of a quarterback, you don't want to have, that same build. But anyways, let's get back to this game though. So yeah, teams exchanged punts. Chargers got a touchdown. Steelers did answer, though. 13 plays, 70 yards down the field. Justin Fields, a 5-yard touchdown run to tie the game there. Chargers then answered with a field goal. Cameron Dicker from 28 yards out to make it 10-7. More punts. Boswell actually missed a field goal. I mean, it was a 62-yarder. But I was expecting him to make it the way he's been kicking it so far this year. So, yeah, it was 10-7 at the half. Steelers opened up the second half. They tied the game. Boswell from 38 yards out. Punt in this game. A punt by the Chargers. And then Justin Fields on their second drive in the third quarter. Fields was trying to hit Cordell Patterson, but it got intercepted by Bud Dupree, former Steeler. Then the Chargers punted on that drive. Steelers got another field goal. Boswell, a 30-yard field goal to make it 13-10. Then we move on to the fourth quarter here. And, Chargers punted. Then the Steelers. This was a big play. Justin Fields connected with Calvin Austin, who's looked good. 55-yard touchdown. That put them up 20-10. Chargers punted again. That was really all she wrote. But, Justin Herbert got banged up in this game. He got crushed on a sack. And he got, he aggravated that because he's dealing with an ankle sprain right now. And, he got taken out of the game. So we'll have to keep an eye on his status. But he received x-rays on the ankle. I'm trying to see if there's any update. But, yeah, still dealing with that ankle sprain. He could miss this game against the Chiefs coming up. But the x-rays did come back negative, which is encouraging. But, yeah, I mean, I think it was important for the Chargers to get him out of that game because the Steelers' defense started to take over. And, they put Taylor Heineke in, and, he couldn't do much. The Steelers' defense just were all over them. But also, they suffered more injuries besides Herbert. You had Joe Alt, he got hurt in this game, and I think Rashawn Slater also got hurt in this game. So that's both of their tackles. So that's not good for the Chargers moving forward. And on top of that, you got to deal with Chris Jones coming up. So, yeah, injuries affecting the Chargers now. I mean, the defense still played well. I mean, you did give up that, touchdown to Calvin Austin. But other than that, the Chargers were still in this game. So, but, yeah, the Steelers, man, 3-0 to start off the year. And they're in first place right now. You got the Browns that are 1-2, the Ravens are 1-2, and you got the Bengals who are 0-3. I mean, it's not going to stay like this. I mean, it's going to change, but got to give the Steelers credit. Got to give Justin Fields credit. I mean, this is his starting job now. This is on him. Russell Wilson is the backup now. So, and Fields, look, has he been, putting up monster stats? No, but he's doing what he's supposed to do. Limiting the turnovers. I mean, yeah, he threw a pick, but, it is what it is there. Making plays with his legs, of course, the touchdown run he had. He looks good with the Steelers. And hopefully that continues for him. And they take on a Colts team that, yes, they got the win against the Bears. And we'll talk about that game tomorrow. That's one of the games we haven't gotten to yet. We'll get to that game tomorrow. The Colts haven't looked great. I mean, I know they played really well against the Texans in week 1, but these last 2 weeks, Anthony Richardson has not played well. And the Steelers, they got one of the best defenses in the NFL, and, they could definitely wreak havoc on the Colts. And, the Colts defense hasn't been great either. Caleb Williams, I know he turned the ball over, but, threw for a lot of yards in the game. So, Justin Fields in that offense, they could definitely move the ball against them. Although they are missing. So Najee Harris got banged up in this game, as well as Jaylen Warren. So they could be down to Cordero Patterson, being their third running back. So to go through the stats, actually, of the game, I didn't do that yet. So Justin Herbert went 12 of 18, 125 yards, a touchdown, no interceptions. Taylor Heineke went 2 for 2 for 24 yards. J.K. Dobbins, was great the first 2 weeks. Not so much here. 15 carries for 44 yards. Ladd McConkey had 3 receptions for 44 yards. Quentin Johnson, 2 for 44 and a touchdown. Will Dissly, 3 for 19. Like I said, Bud Dupree had the interception. Chargers defense had a couple of sacks for the Steelers. Justin Fields went 25 of 32 for 245 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. Najee Harris, 70 yards on the ground. Cordero Patterson had 33 yards on the ground. Jaylen Warren only had 3 for 5. So, yeah, and Jaylen Warren's dealing with a little bit of a knee issue. So we'll see what that's all about. Najee Harris also got banged up in this game. So, yeah, it could be Cordero Patterson as the lead back for them. And we've seen him run the football for numerous teams, the Patriots, and I'm trying to think of who else. I mean, he's been on so many teams. He's been on the Falcons. He's been on the Vikings. Well, he started out with the Vikings. He's been on with the Falcons, the Bears, the Steelers now. I'm definitely missing some other teams. Yeah, so he was with the Falcons last year. Well, he was with them for the last couple of years. Last few years, actually. Yeah, he was with the Bears. Was with the Patriots. Was with the Raiders as well. And then he started out with the Vikings, like I said. So, yeah, he's been with a lot of teams. But now he might be the lead back because, both of their running backs are hurt at the moment. Calvin Austin was their leading receiver, back to the stats. 4 receptions, 95 yards and a touchdown. George Pickens, 5 for 57. Pat Freiermuth, 4 for 33. The Steelers' defense, 5 sacks in this game. You had 1 from Landon Roberts, 1 from T.J. Watt. Nick Herbig had 2 sacks in this game. Cam Hayward had a sack as well. So, I mean, the Steelers' defense looks really good. And that's what's going to carry this team. You got Justin Fields, does good enough on offense. And then, you got, the defense continues to play well here. And then, in the comments we got shots below the belt. He says, Patterson wasn't bad with the Falcons. Pretty good, not bad for a third stringer. Yeah, if you mean Cordero Patterson as the third string running back, yeah. I mean, and you saw a couple runs he had in the game. I mean, he's a big guy. But how is he going to be if he's got to be, the lead back? I mean, they're going to have to figure something out. I mean, they're going to have another running back if both others, top 2 backs are going to be out. So, but Patterson looks like he could still get the job done running the football a little bit. But, I mean, you got Fields who could also, run the football as well. But, yeah, I mean, another win for the Steelers. They take on the Colts. And this is what I said before the season started. I said, stack up the wins now with the lighter part of your schedule. Because, then you got that second half where it's a brutal brutal schedule. And I will say this, though. It's not as brutal as we originally thought, because you look at the Bengals right now and their problems, the Browns and their issues, the Ravens have their problems, and the Steelers always find a way to beat them at least once. And, the Eagles, look, defense played a lot better, but I feel like that schedule is not as, daunting as it was originally. And you also got the Chiefs, who they still don't look great offensively, and that's a home game for them on Christmas. So, the Steelers could get to those 9 wins. That 9 wins is definitely in play. And I said I would believe that. And right now they're 3-0. They are a third of the way there. So now you take on the Colts, who I think they can win that game, but we'll see. But yeah, gotta like what you're seeing from the Steelers so far. And Justin Fields, maybe this is his new home right here. Maybe the Steelers found their quarterback. And then as for Justin Herbert, hopefully, he's not out for that long and he comes back. But my guess is maybe he's out for this week when they take on the Chiefs. So, yeah, that's pretty much it for the show for today. Let me know any final thoughts you may have on this game in the comments. But, yeah, appreciate you guys tuning in. Appreciate the comments in the chat. And, yeah, so make sure to check out all the other shows. Like I said, give the other shows some love like I always say. And, yeah, that is all the time that we have for today. Shots below the belt says in the chat what the early success of Justin Fields and the Steelers say about how the Bears made the move to get rid of him. Yeah. Caleb Williams, again, looked a little bit better against the Colts here. A couple of turnovers. Turnovers have been bad. But I feel like Caleb Williams is going to eventually find his footing. It's just, again, it's going to take some time. But, I appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll be back again tomorrow, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And until then, I'm Kenneth Grunfelder signing off from the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Take care.
Let's
go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great.